Hey guys, welcome back to Tribe Talk. Jim here. I'm here with my friend Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Well, I'm doing good, buddy.
Good.
Hey, listen, we're gonna do something a little bit different.
Yep.
Today, guys. Late last night, Mike called me. We had something prepared to talk about today, but we definitely feel led to talk about something else. So, Mike, why don't you tell the guys what we're going to talk about?
Yeah. So, first of all, I want to point out that we are talking about something that I think is, well, I know for a fact it means a lot to Jim and I. And in short, my dad was sick, had to go into surgery. Long story short, he finally did pass away this last Saturday. It is Monday right now, and I'll be honest, it's been a tough couple of days trying to kind of navigate this and kind of understand it and what does it mean for me now. And I don't have all the answers for sure, but I do know that it's something that is really heavy on my heart. And then you and I discussed last night, hey, I just felt like the Holy Spirit was saying, why don't you guys get together and just talk about your dads?
Yeah, so good.
So Jim lost his dad. How old were you?
Let's see, early 20s.
Okay.
So this would have been, well, Libby is 21, and he passed right before she was born, so it would have been 21 years ago.
Yeah. So mine's brand new. Jim's has been goes back quite a ways, and so the idea behind this, let's be honest, we have not prepared for this, have we?
No, not even a little.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to take some time right now to celebrate our dads. And it's amazing to me that I actually have learned more about my dad probably in the last month and a half that we've kind of been going through this. And I really just want to have a chance to kind of talk about that. And I don't know for sure exactly what that's going to look like yet.
Well, I mean, we'll both get a chance to tell part of our story today. Here's what we can both say in complete honesty, is that those men have shaped us in one way or another.
That's exactly right.
And I think it's amazing how when you realize that time is fleeting, that there's some urgency in getting to know this man.
Yes.
And so is that what you're getting at? That you
Yeah.
got to experience that?
Yeah. So I'll just catch everybody up real quick. So Dad had to get triple bypass surgery. And this is going clear back right before his birthday, which was March 7th or 8th. He went in to get triple bypass. At the time, he did not want to get it, and I had to. I have a brother that lives out in Phoenix, and we had talked that night, and I told my brother, I said, he doesn't want to get it. And he says, well, we need to talk to him and help him understand that, he should probably try to get this surgery because his life is going to be not the same if he doesn't. Not saying that if he goes to the surgery, he's going to be okay either, but we at least need to take the chance.
Well, and the evidence bears that out, but it was his best shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's his best shot. And so we knew for sure that we were going into something, and we did not know how it was going to come out. And so we went into it. With that being said, during that time, the heart actually was doing really well. But what we found out was that Dad had a lot of other things that he was not sharing with us that were causing him issues with his health and so forth. And I for sure saw in the last few months how my dad was definitely just showing a lot more weakness than he had before. And so my brother and I were talking quite a bit about it. I only have one brother, and we talked a lot about it, and we decided that we would do this and then try to go through it. Well, what ended up happening is that Dad slowly just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then they got to the point where they had to put him on end-of-life hospice sort of care. And then and then from there, he finally early morning on Saturday. I'm sound asleep. I've got my phone right next to my head in case someone calls me. from the hospital, and they called me and said, "Hey, your dad has taken a turn for the worse. We think he's getting ready to go. You need to get here if you can, as quick as you can." And so it was 10 minutes to 4 on Saturday morning. And I jumped in my truck, took off, and by the time I got there, he had passed.
Yeah. And you shared with me through this process too, like he had as well as he could conversations with you that he was ready. Right?
Yeah, yes, and that's important too. And this is really what we're going to get to, I think, as this conversation goes on. My dad, he got to the point where they had to put a trach into his throat, so he couldn't speak anymore. So when he would talk, he would mouth words. My brother and I have talked quite a bit about it, and I've also talked to my uncle about it as well, and some other people. And everybody agrees that one thing about my dad, without a doubt, is he's one of the toughest SOBs you'll ever meet in your life. He just doesn't quit. And I've watched that guy work to the point of anybody else would drop dead and he'll just keep going. And so my brother and I were talking about it, and he would mouth the words to me, and I'll never forget the first time he looked at me and he said to me, "I'm ready to go." And when he said that, it was almost like he was asking for my permission.
Wow.
Like, I'm getting ready to go. I really, really am just ready to go. And he says to me, he says this to me, and it was almost like as soon as I said to him back, I said, "Dad, I know it's okay. Jesus is waiting for you. We're okay. It's time for you to go." And from that moment forward in the hospital, which went on for a few weeks, I don't even know anymore, like a couple weeks or something like that. It was almost as if his irritation, because my dad is a fighter, I don't know where I get that from, and has a tendency to, get upset when things aren't going the right way. And when he finally said that to me, it was almost as if he just let all that go. Like, it's okay for me to go, and no one's asking me to stay anymore.
It was a full torch pass moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you think about like his responsibility throughout life was to mold you and to care for you and to train you.
Yep.
And I don't know, did that feel kind of like he was bestowing upon you your initiation, like, hey, you're there, you're ready?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that I've always wanted to hear from my dad's mouth, and I never got to hear it, although I watched him mouth it to my daughter, Grace, is him to say, "I love you and I'm proud of you."
Yeah.
And I think so much of my life, and this is what's been really working on me since he's passed, is so much of my life I feel like, and we talk about it in the ministry all the time. I talk about it. Anybody that's listened to me speak or hear us talk about on the podcast or whatever it is, we talk about it all the time. That there was a time in my life when I was trying to prove that I had. That I existed, that I mattered, that what I brought to the world actually mattered. And you think you're healed from that, because I talk about it all the time in the ministry.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah.
Yeah, but am I? And so going back to what you said, it was almost as if Dad was saying, "It's all yours now, and here you go. I'm handing this off to you." And that was a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And to give our listeners a little bit of background, like Mike is very vulnerable about that. And he shares that a lot, to the point where the other men in his life that are his peers, we are consistently telling you how proud we are of you.
Mm-hmm.
And not that we can make up for what your dad should have said. But I guess the message there is, that find somebody that's going to be that champion for you.
That's right.
Right. And because a lot of guys listen to this, they don't have dads that they're close to or even particularly proud of. And I want you to remember that your Heavenly Father feels that way about you.
That's so good.
And so I don't know if this discussion is how it's going to hit with people, but I do want to remind people of that.
Yeah, and that's so important, Jim, because we talk about, our dads. And I know your situation is much different than all situations are different. So I'm not saying that, anything other than more than that, but everybody's situation is different. And at the end of the day, some of us have fathers that were engaged in our lives, were there and showed us how much they cared. And then there's some that as mine was really was not engaged in my daily life, and it caused me a lot of struggle throughout life, and it still does. And I'm 54 years old, and I'm still kind of looking for that. And so, if I could just say one thing, is that you guys in this ministry and my friends and those that are close to me have shown me that I do matter, that I do in my family, everybody, my wife, we joke around on the podcast before. I've asked my kids, like, I just asked my daughter this yesterday, how am I doing as a dad? Like, I need to know, am I doing okay? And at the end of the day, we do have a Father in heaven that is not looking at any of that stuff.
Yeah, despite our poor choices, is still proud of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talk about in the ministry so many times that we're not here to work for his love, but rather from his love. And that's the thing right there. That's the key, is that there is nothing that we can do to make him love us more.
Truth. Yeah.
And my dad loved me, and I know that, even though I wanted to hear it from him. But he made mistakes, and he struggled through life, and he had things that were tough on him. And what I want everybody to understand is that we have an enemy that is tenacious, that works so hard every day, who does not like your Father in heaven. And you were created by that Father in heaven, and that he's going to do everything he can to keep you from understanding how much you're actually loved.
To include putting a gap between you and your father.
Yes.
Yeah.
To include putting a gap between me and my dad.
Yeah, it's a pretty sinister tactic.
It is. So that's the thing I think we really, I want people to understand, is that we have a God in heaven, and he loves us so much. He wants the most for us, and then we also have a tenacious enemy that wants to do everything he can do to keep you from understanding just how much you're actually loved and cared for.
Yeah. I want to back up for 1 second, because you mentioned again today, just 5 minutes ago, that you asked Grace if you're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to point out, you and I haven't had this conversation, but for those that don't know this young lady, first of all, she's pretty cool.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's really cool. But during this whole process, you told me that she wouldn't leave your side.
Yeah.
And so if that's not evidence of the job you're doing as her dad, I don't know what is, buddy.
I feel like it just got hotter in here because my eyeballs are starting to sweat.
Yeah, it is pretty warm.
Yeah. So, that's the thing about that I want to point out and celebrate, is throughout this whole. So I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she's getting ready to go to college, and she is so much like her mom.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. Speaking of God loving us,
Sorry.
It's great. It's perfect. He made her more like her mom, and she throughout this process, and we found out that dad was, only had a short period of time to live. She would not leave my side. She would not. And even so, what we were doing was we were driving back and forth. We drive there, spend the day, and then head home. And it's just an exhausting emotional period of time. And she would sit there in the room with me, and I would find myself feeling awful for her. I'm like, gosh, she's got so many more other things she'd be doing. And I'd tell her like, hey, you want me to take you home? No, Dad, I'm staying here.
Well, and in a generation where their attention span is about 30 seconds.
Yes.
That's saying something too.
Yeah. It was crazy. And she'd bring her homework in with her, and she'd bring, things with her to keep her busy and so forth. But anyway, we were getting ready to go to bed at night. One night we just got back, and we were getting ready to go to bed, and I'm laying in bed, and she walks in my room, and she jumps up on the bed, and the dog, who has really had a tough day, of course. Yeah. It's
not enough naps.
Yeah, it's not enough naps. So the dog is there laying beside me, and she hugs Lolo, that's our dog, and she looks at me and she says, Dad, if they call you tonight, you make sure you come and wake me up. I said, Grace, you don't have to do that. She said, Dad, you come and wake me up. I'm going with you. So that is it's just amazing to see that.
Yeah. I mean, what a great symptom of a kid that gets it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
been listening to you, and what a fantastic bond that you two have, that she wanted. I mean, let's be honest, she wanted to be there for you.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So I have more I'd like to get into here, but let me talk about your situation with your dad.
Okay.
And kind of how, and like you said, it was 20 some years ago now.
Yeah, 21 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so tell me a little bit about that story.
Well, I mean, if you want to go back all the way to my childhood, I did have the encouraging dad. Like, he was always there.
Yeah.
In fact, this is the guy that would go on a business trip. He was in sales. He worked for a company that sold like high-end windows. And he would go on a business trip up to corporate, which was in Minnesota. We lived in New Jersey. And while all his coworkers would stay behind and like rub elbows with the bigwigs in corporate, Friday night business meetings were over, they'd all go out to restaurants or bars or whatever and have some cocktails and rub elbows with the bigwigs. My dad would have his bags packed, and as soon as the meetings were over, he would jump on a plane so he could make it back in time for my baseball game.
Man.
That he coached.
Yeah.
So, and he was very successful at his job. Like, I don't want anybody to think that he missed a ton, but he got the big picture that that my kid needed me. He wasn't even that great a baseball coach, but he was my favorite coach.
Yep.
Because he was there and he was present.
Yep.
And you would think when we won that he won the World Series. Like, he was emotionally invested in me and my teammates. And so that's just one display of how my dad would put us first.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, fast forward, I go to the academy, I graduate, and I go to pilot training. Sarah and I have our first baby while I was in pilot training. That's our oldest, Maddie. And then I was in the middle of like my mission training to fly the C-130, and we found out that my dad was sick. And it started with just a pain in his neck, and it seemed like an injury. And he started doing rehab, and that's when they found tumors. And so, there was one point in his treatment where they said he was in remission. And literally 2 weeks later, they did another scan, and it was not only still present, but it was growing.
Yeah.
And so, man, this man that I highly respect went from gonna kick this because he is the strongest guy I know to he's not gonna make it.
Yeah.
And what's cool about his story is he didn't know God before. So yeah, he grew up in a Jewish household, and when he got sick, he looked at my mom and he said, "Hey, I don't know if I believe in this whole faith thing, but I should probably figure it out." And my mom actually looked at him and went, "Well, Judaism is cool, but I believe in Jesus, so maybe we should look into that." And my father, kind of knowing what circles I was running in at that point, he earnestly looked into it. And he found a little church in Maryland, and they started going, and he was convinced he was going to be healed. And I kind of told this story at our first infill, but there was a moment when he was sick that I drove out to Maryland to try and minister to my father so he would be saved. And just long story short, God made it clear that it wasn't going to be me that spoke to him about it that was going to bring him around. And I left dejected, man. I was like, I'm the only saved guy in my family. This is my opportunity to introduce Jesus to my dad. And I left really, really upset. And literally that week, one of his golf buddies called him up, said, "I want to come over and talk to you." And my dad was like, "No problem, come on over," thinking it was just a social call. And he ministered to my father, and my father was saved.
Wow.
And you want to talk about relief.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you hear that voice, it's not going to be you, Jim. It's like, are you sure?
Yeah.
That can't be right. And we try and use logic and our own power and strength to just ignore what it is God's telling you. But luckily I married up too, and my wife talked me into listening to that still small voice. And I think if it were me that ministered to him, it wouldn't have had the same effect.
Yeah.
I believe that now 100%. But yeah, despite that, and despite the miracle that I thought was going to happen, it didn't. And I miss him every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how you wished your dad would have told you he was proud of you. And now if I have a success in my life, I'm so sad that I don't get to share it with him.
Yeah.
Because I know my dad was proud of me, and I know that he would tell me again.
Yeah. Well, so I have a story about that here in a little while. I don't want to say anything about it yet.
Was that not the story you wanted me to tell?
No, no, that's a great story. What I'm saying is I have a story that I learned about going through this with my dad that I think goes back to us wanting our fathers to be proud of us, right?
Yeah, of course.
So we can get into that here in a minute, but we'll hold on for a second. One of the things I think is interesting as I was listening to your side of it is that your dad had never actually given his heart to Jesus until later on in life, but was so engaged in your life. And what I love, and I think is really important, because I struggle with this a lot in my own life, is he was making decisions where all the other dudes were going out together and celebrating, doing whatever it is, burn off steam together at the bar, whatever it was that they were doing at the time, eating out, whatever. He said, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go home and I'm going to pour into my son."
Yeah, to make it to one Little League game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which to you meant everything in the world.
Oh, it was the world.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's interesting is, and this is the part that I really, really struggled with, was I asked all of you guys, any of my friends, I said, if you're going to pray for him, help my dad to find peace for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
So I'll get into that here in a minute, but what's interesting, the point I want to make is that your dad, non-believer at the time, still poured into you. My dad professed that he was a believer, but had a really hard time pouring into me and being available, and so forth. And so it's interesting the difference there that we see.
Well, I mean, we talked about it earlier. The devil uses different tactics, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And he would love nothing more for us all to be kind of incomplete.
That's right.
And we also talk a lot in Junto about what an authentic man looks like.
Yep.
And what God's original design was. And even if it's not the whole shebang, even if the devil can't get you to completely fall from grace, marching or sprinting towards hell, which is really what he wants, he'll take small victories and he'll pull little things. He'll pull at little things so that you're just not complete.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Which is terrifying.
It's terrifying. But, okay, so let me ask you this.
Okay, go ahead.
You say it's terrifying, and I don't disagree. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But should it be?
No, because we live in victory.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're arguing over battles, not the war.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Man, that's so good.
And, you think about just like when you ask your kids if you're doing a good job, they could probably, all of our kids could probably pull out 50 things that we messed up.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you've aligned your hearts with God, you're going to win the war.
Yes.
And at least if you're looking for that kind of feedback, I think that's really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask for that feedback from your children that you're trying to serve. But to know that even when we mess up, we can still bob and weave and get back in the fight because we're going to win the war.
That's right.
And that, I think, I've been reading a lot about this lately too. It's a heart posture. It's changing your heart to be in alignment with God's.
Mm-hmm.
And we convince ourselves that our actions are going to be what win the day, but that's not even true. It's aligning your heart with God. The actions, the works that we do are a symptom or a byproduct of that heart alignment.
That's great. So a symptom or a byproduct
Yes.
of that alignment. So in other words, we talk about it again. I'll bring it up again. We talk about in the ministry that we don't work for his love because we can't do anything to get it. We work from his love.
Yes.
So that means then what you just said is that alignment, then understanding that what he has actually done for us. And one of those things, by the way, is giving us life for a reason.
Yes.
And so the question is, what's the reason? Why? What the heck am I doing here, right? And so we talk about this in the ministry as well. But again, it comes down to none of us have this thing figured out.
We can't.
We can't.
Because we're not Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we do know that the creator of the universe gave us life, and he didn't just do it on accident. There's a reason behind it. And the reason then, which we've talked about, so people can go back and listen to other podcasts that they've heard us speak before at Infill and the different things, but God put people on this planet to be his representatives.
Right.
To be his representatives, to actually have everything that we need so that we can take on the enemy.
Yes.
And so then again, if we have everything we need, not saying that we're going to get perfect and sometimes lose the battle, we still have to remember we have a part in that fight and that the war will be won. And that's the idea. We are actually his chosen representatives. So if we have a God who created everything and we believe angels exist, and I'm also doing some research on the concept of a divine council. That's a whole other thing we can get into at some other time.
Yeah.
So that means then that there's something special about us. And that means that we are actually being brought into this world to make it better, that heaven isn't somewhere in the future, and that we're not going somewhere, but rather it's coming here.
It's coming here, yeah.
Yes. And that means that there will be skirmishes. There's going to be an enemy that's trying to keep us from getting there.
Well, and we talk a lot about approach too. So I've got a metaphor. Bear with me for just a second. Did you ever play the game Contra on Nintendo as a kid?
Dude, first of all, I just want to point out.
Were you just like the best ever?
I used to be able to finish Contra because we had me and my buddy would get in there, and my brother too. We go in there and just absolutely destroy that thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So do you remember the code?
I do not remember the code.
All right. So when you put your Nintendo.
Oh, we're talking Nintendo.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the actual.
In the arcade.
Yeah, in the arcade.
Okay,
yeah.
so the Nintendo was cool because you used to be able to put a code in when you first turned the game system on, and the credits came up. You would. God, I can't believe I remember this. You would do up, up, down, down, left, right, A, BBA select start.
Yeah.
And when you keyed that in on your little controller, it would give you unlimited lives,
Oh,
right?
like it.
It actually would give you 99 lives because that's
pretty
it was
unlimited.
2 digits and
Yeah.
that was it. Okay. And so what that enabled you to do was play the game freely. You would literally, I mean, you didn't struggle, you didn't care. You would take more chances, you'd be more aggressive to beat the levels because you knew you had 99 lives stocked up. What I'm suggesting, as we question our tactics, we question our approach, and we question our efficacy for the kingdom, is when Jesus died on the cross, he gave us the code.
That's good, man.
Where no matter how many risks we take or how many mistakes we make while processing this game of life, we know we're going to win.
Yes. Yes. And one of the best and strongest ways that our enemy fights us is making us forget that.
Yep. So when you think about fatherhood and you think about the effect that we're having on our kids, and I dwell on this all the time. You know, anytime they struggle, I wonder what I did to mess that up.
Yeah.
Anytime
that
I'm in poor relationship with them, I wonder what it is that I did to mess that up. The reality is, if we believe that we live in victory, like it's already guaranteed, it doesn't matter what we messed up. We just punch the code in, we bob and weave, and we get right back in the fight.
Yeah.
And to all you dads that wonder that about yourself, it is not too late to make that connection with your kid.
Yes. It's never too late to make that connection with your kid. And some of us don't know what it looks like to love openly, to really show someone else that we love them, right? But the easiest way is just be engaged in their lives.
Yeah, be present.
Yeah, be present.
Come home from the business trip early and go to the dang baseball game.
Yes, put down the phone at night and veg off into some other world and scroll through that stupid thing, because what that's doing is that's actually keeping you away from relationship with your kid. And then you could easily say, well, they're doing the same thing. Yeah. So is that something that you should have in your home? Is that something that you should be doing? And the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
You have to be engaged with your kids and with your wife. They have to know. So I've said this before, but I'm going to bring it up again. A good friend of mine here in town, we'll just call him Randy because that's his first name. He said to me one day, he said, look, Mike, he says, my kids, they're not mine. My wife is not mine. My friends aren't mine. The things I have are not mine. All of it is been given to me on loan by Jesus to use for the betterment of the kingdom. And I'm telling you, man, that is so true. So I'm going to say it again. Everything you've been given in life has been given to you by God. And it's on loan to you, and it's your job to steward it correctly. And when you steward it correctly, you can use it to bring the kingdom of heaven to this planet.
And using it correctly looks like loving people like Jesus did.
That's exactly right.
And that first step in the way that Jesus loved us well was to sacrifice himself for us.
Bang. So sacrifice then means that we, instead of, and by the way, I've said this before too, and you have too, that we can do this in our jobs as well. All of it are ways that we sacrifice for other people.
That's how you lead effectively.
It's how you lead effectively. You're giving of yourself completely and totally to, again, be like Jesus. So when he washed his disciples' feet, he was sending a message. Hey guys, you know how you lead? This is how you lead. You lead by giving and giving everything you have for the other individual. It's not about you. It's not. So there are pastors that are running massive congregations and actually believe that they deserve the jet. They deserve the really super expensive suites they stay in. We're on the road and they're speaking somewhere. If that's Christianity, then Jesus must have had it wrong.
Yeah, and this is a tough line too, right? Because we're not trying to put people down that have nice things.
No, not
That's
at
not
all.
the point. But if you're suggesting that your service is tied, that you deserve it because of your service or because of your sacrifice, I think you got it.
That's exactly
flipped.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
See, you always do a good job of bailing me out when I.
Yeah, I mean, people that have money are children of God too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
But again, that's the other thing is like money is just a small piece of all this, because I can sit back and go, well, man, I'm really going to help out the kingdom of heaven, I think, so I'm just going to donate all my money. What you should be doing is maybe giving of yourself. The money might be the easy thing. So again, these are questions that I've been thinking about quite a bit. And I'm sorry if I'm making from upsetting people, but the reality is that we have all been given gifts, whether that's financial, whether that's spiritual, whether that's whatever it is. We've all been given gifts, and they are not for us. They have been given on loan to us to give away to the world.
Yeah, true.
To make it different, to make it better.
And it's never too late.
That's right. It's never too late.
Yeah. So I want to encourage people. I think you probably got some downloads this week about that, right?
Yeah. So, as I said, I have a brother out in Phoenix, and we were talking quite a bit. And my dad, towards the end of his life, got to the point where the only way you could really communicate with him, like really be able to communicate with him, is if you would write an email. And
you talking before he was in the hospital?
Before he's in the hospital,
Okay.
yes. And he actually told through an email to my brother 7-8 months ago that he was ready to go already. So he was already kind of talking like he's down. He wanted to be, my mom had passed away a couple years ago, so he wanted to be with mom, and which, by the way, is music to my ears, because mom and dad never ever really showed how much they cared for one another throughout my life. And so that was another thing that was good to hear, that he wanted to be with mom and so forth. And so what I really want to talk about is towards the end of him being in hospice, they've got him on morphine, they've got everything turned off. I'm actually brand new at understanding any of this and trying to figure it out. And my brother actually works in hospice, so I was calling him to get understanding of what we're dealing with. And Dad would kind of go in and out of consciousness, and when he would come out of being asleep or in a different world, he would just stare out into nothingness. And then every once in a while, he'd recognize that you were there, and he would talk to you or try to talk to us. And that's, as I said earlier, I think I said that he told my daughter, for example, that he loved her. And anyway, the thing that was interesting was Dad would stare off into space, and then during these moments, he would just all of a sudden just take his arms and lift him up, and he would start reaching for something out in front of him. And during this time, so my wife, Julie, her dad, and I've said that before, one of the most amazing people I've ever been around in my life, died many, many years ago. And when he was passing, he was in hospice, he was in the living room, and my mother-in-law, Sally, was in the back, or in the kitchen, and she could hear him talking. And she would go in and say, "Who are you talking to?" He'd say, "You didn't see him?" She said, "What are you talking about?" "They were just here." And he would talk about, he didn't know his family very well. He stopped it, and he didn't know anything about his background. He did know a little bit, and he said he would talk about his cousin being there who had passed before, and he said, "Did you see the angels? Did you see him?" And saying all these different things. So he's going into the spiritual world, and we talk about this in our ministry quite a bit and what that looks like. So I'm watching my dad, and I'm thinking this is what he's doing too. He's seeing the next part of his life that is never ending, that he's going to, and he's reaching out to these individuals that are in his life. Is it my mom? Is it so? And I can't wait to tell you what I found out.
Well, by the way, before people tune out, because they're like, okay, this is getting weird, there's evidence of this in Scripture too.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
I just want to point that out.
Yeah. There's evidence of this in Scripture. There's evidence in this in the scientific world. I research this stuff all the time. It does exist.
Yes.
So my dad's reaching out, and he's starting to mouth words, and he's speaking to whoever is there. And then all of a sudden, it's like he gets exhausted and his arms just go down and he's quiet again. And this was something that I saw over and over and over again throughout this time frame. So I'm going to go ahead because I can't handle it anymore.
Go for it, man.
Okay. So the last day, so I told you that I woke up at 10 minutes till 4 o'clock in the morning. The nurse said, "Hey, your dad's taking a turn for the worse. You might want to try to come if you can." So I'm on my way to Pensacola. That's the other unfortunate thing of this, is that the facility that he was in Pensacola. So, it's going to take me an hour to get there. So I'm on the road, and I know what I got to deal with, and I just don't want to. And I'm worshiping and listening to worship music on the way there. And I'm 10 minutes out, and I get a phone call, and I answer it, and I know it's the hospital, and I know what this is. And she says, "Hey, Mr. Sanders." I said, "Yes." And she said, your father has passed." And all I said, I don't know why I'm bringing this up right now. I said, "Dang it, Dad. Can you just wait?" Right?
30 more minutes.
Yeah, just 30, not even that. It was like 15 minutes away. So anyway, I get there and I walk into the hospital, and by the way, they did an absolutely amazing job, just an amazing job. And I'm walking through everything, walking down into his room, and I walk in, and there he's laying there, and just as peaceful as you can be. And I sat down in the chair, and I didn't sit down in the chair yet. I don't know why this is important too. I walked over to him, and I put my hand in his hair, and I rubbed it, and I said, "Dad," and he's cold. And I said, "Dad, I love you." And I said, "Thank you," which is exactly what I told my mom as well, because I was around that as well. And anyway, I went and sat back down. As I'm sitting there, some of the nurses are coming in, they're checking on me. "Do you need anything?" And you take as much time as you want, and all this. Well, then this little black lady comes walking in. And you have to remember, I'm sitting up against the window, so I'm on the other side of the room. And she's standing in the doorway, and she says, "Hi, Mr. Sanders." I said, "Yes, I am." And she goes, "What's your first name?" I said, "My name's Mike." And she said, she says, "Do you need anything?" And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "I just want you to know that I think your dad was one of the best people I've ever been around." And then she starts crying, and she says, "I'm sorry." And I'm like, I have to do something. So I went over to her, and I went to go hug her. And she hugged me back. She says, "I'm sorry, I don't usually do this." And I said, "It's okay, it's okay." And I just said, "You guys are amazing. You've done an amazing job here," and so forth. And then she says, "I want you to understand that this morning we were standing in here, and he was getting ready to pass. And he reached up into the sky towards him, and he started talking. He's mouthing words. And she said, 'Your mom is not with us, is she?' I didn't tell her.
This is the first you've met this lady?
Yeah, the first time I met her.
Yeah.
She said, your mom's not with us, is she? And I said, no, she's not. And she says to me, I want you to understand that she was here. He was surrounded by family, and they're all inviting him this way. And she said, and your mom and your dad, he said he was sorry. And that everything is okay between the two of them. And I mean, there's a story behind all of that. My dad has just been a wounded human being for a very long time. Something very traumatic happened to him in his life at a young age, right when he met my mom. And because of that, I think he just pushed people away. And now this woman who does not know me at all, it was the first time I met her, she's telling me that this is something that happened. She is spiritually having a prophetic moment, and she is telling it to me.
That is crazy.
It's unbelievable. And that alone, for whatever reason, has given me more strength than I can even say. And what is done is it's just made me look at everything. My family, you, the rest of the guys in Junto, my friends, everything. And I just like, I'm here. You're here for me and I'm here for you. And I want to do everything I can to stand next to you and everybody else in the ministry and all my friends and my family. And just, again, just realize that you guys you're on loan to me.
Yeah.
And that Jesus he has an expectation for me just to simply love you guys.
Wow. Yeah, and I think this just kind of came to me. I'm going to make a lot of poor choices in my life, but I won't fail.
No.
At that.
More importantly, he won't fail.
Yeah.
And in those places, what I mean is Jesus won't fail. So in those places where, I've seen my dad fail. This woman told me, your mom and he have had a conversation and everything is going to be okay. And it was just absolutely an amazing, amazing time.
It's not a coincidence.
No, it's not.
It just can't be.
It can't be. So this is important. At some point during this conversation, we talked about, Jesus and being connected to us and everything like that. And so I can sit here and do this. I could easily just poo-poo this off, which a lot of us have a tendency to do, and forget what happened here. Or, because we have that choice, free will is a thing. I can freely choose. Or I can sit back and go, no, this is something that God was involved heavily here in this room with my dad. Those that have gone before him were here, bringing it, telling me it's okay to come, and then what has that done for me to strengthen me? So we talked about the battles. What could I learn in this battle that my dad has gone through? What can I learn in the battle that I'm going through right now, trying to understand and make sense of all this? And now I have the opportunity to take that, to learn from it, and to give it away to other people.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So that Psalm 91 is one of my favorites.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
I mean, I could probably use this scripture for everything, actually. Find a way, but I want to remind you in Psalm 91 verse 14 and on, it says, because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. And here's the part I want to key in on, Mike. He will call on me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. And that is so true if you believe in eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
But the part where he says, he will call on me and I will answer him. You can't tell me that God's not there.
I know. I agree.
When you're going through hard stuff. You know, that story and I'm not even sure that it would have had the same impact if you were in the room. But the fact that this woman was there and described it to you in details that
that's true.
She would only know if she witnessed it, like she wouldn't know based on your history, is just another beautiful way that God uses others to send messages.
Yep.
To tell you he's there.
Yep. So good.
Oh man, because I had a moment like that when my father passed away, where I was alone with him. He hadn't been speaking for a week probably. He hadn't even opened his eyes. He was just breathing with his eyes closed, and his breath was getting more and more labored as time went by. And I was alone in the room, and I was praying. I was actually praying for a miracle. Even that late, I was still hoping that God would heal my father.
Yep.
And at some point, I just wanted to hug him, so I put my head on his chest, and I'm crying, and I'm praying, and I feel this hand on my back. And I lifted my head, and my father's eyes were open. And he had put his hand on my back.
Yep.
And that he didn't say a single word. In fact, he didn't have his eyes open long. But I know that when I looked up, I saw my Heavenly Father's eyes.
Yep.
So he does. He will answer the call. He will call on me, and I will answer him. Our God does that.
That's it.
You know, even in our darkest moments. So it's very beautiful.
It is. It's amazing. So one of the things that just as I was listening to you speak, what about, and maybe this is too hard of a question to ask, but what about those who have lost people and they prayed for them to stay, they prayed for their healing, they prayed, God, please let them make it. And they wanted to make it. The people wanted to make it. Different than my dad. I'm sure your dad wanted to make it.
Badly. He was 51.
Yeah. So he wants to keep going. And my father, who wanted to leave. What do we say, or how do we handle this for those that lost someone that's that close to them? They prayed for him,
Well, so first of all, when that happens, don't give them advice on how to handle it. Don't give them a cliche. Like, I know everybody's very well-intentioned, but when you look at a kid who just lost his father that he was very close with and tell him that he's in a better place, or everything happens for a reason, that's not comforting. So when you deal with the grieving, just tell them you love them, and that's it, and that you're sorry. Man, that is a really tough question. Unfortunately, free will is required to even perceive what love is.
Free will.
So free will is what God wanted because he wanted actual relationship. He didn't want a bunch of robots.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
And so we were created for love. Well, in order to understand what love even feels like, you also have to be able to comprehend evil and sadness and sorrow.
Yep.
Otherwise, the example I use is if every day was a sunny day, then no days are sunny days.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's just, you can't even comprehend anything different. And so the unfortunate reality is, for us to understand good, you have to understand evil.
Yeah.
And that's because of free will, why God allows that to be in the world. But make no mistake about it, because this is definitely supported in Scripture, and it's supported with evidence in my life. He does not want bad things to happen to good people.
Right.
Every tragedy I've ever been a part of, God has also sent me messages explaining that he's there and that his heart is absolutely broken. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I believe that to be true.
Yeah, no, the thing I agree with you. The thing that's interesting is that in the ministry we talk a lot about this idea of an apostolic calling that everyone has in our lives. So I believe in the ministry, we talk about this a lot in the ministry, is that we believe that we have all been given an apostolic calling. I'm not saying that we're all apostles. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have an apostolic calling. And I'll give you the short version of this. The idea behind the apostle was something that we start seeing showing up at around the Acts, in the book of Acts, when Peter goes, for example, from being a disciple to being called an apostle. The word apostle was stolen by the disciples after Jesus had resurrected, and that's important to remember that he resurrected. He then said, "Hey, power will be brought on you, and when the Holy Spirit shows up and indwells in you." And then now they start calling themselves apostles. The word apostle was taken from the Roman army, and that word apostle was used by generals at the time during that time frame, that if they went into some area, took it over, and got control of it militarily, then they would bring in other people that were basically culture makers. They created culture. They would go into these places. They were builders, engineers, artists, philosophers, all those individuals. And they would go into that area and they would transform it and change it so that it looked like Rome. Now, this is the important piece. Why did they do that? And why do they have an apostolic mission? Their mission was to go into there, and they were supposed to change it to make it look more like Rome. Why? Because when their king showed up, they wanted him to feel like he was at home. And this is what we have all been given life for. We have been given life. We talked about my buddy telling me about his kids and his wife and the things that he has, his business. All those things are nothing more than something that's been given to him and is on loan to him for what? To change the culture to make it look more like heaven. And one of the things I want to point out is this is something, as I have said over and over again, that I've always wanted to hear. I love you, I'm proud of you, from my dad's lips, and never heard it. I saw him mouth it to my own daughter, which was also awesome. But you still selfishly want to hear it from him, about you, and never got to hear it. But the reality is, in this process, he has been taken from us, and really what that's done is actually made me stronger. It's made me, and I'm not saying that I've got it all figured out right now because I got a long road ahead of me, but what I'm saying is I can see how this is going to end up making me stronger in the long run.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I actually understand this calling that every human being has ever been given, whether I want to take it or not. And is it going to be easy? No, it's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
And that is the way it goes. We are here to serve, to give away, to make it look more like heaven. And we have to remember that it's going to be hard.
Can I put a caveat on that?
Yes, you can.
I would think about this right now before you're in the middle of it. Because when you're in the middle of that trial, you're not going to be thinking clearly.
Nope.
And it's a preparation piece, right? So every day is training day. We're constantly preparing ourselves to usher heaven to earth. And so think now about how you are going to deal with tragedy when you're in your right mind. And like I mentioned this when we did the podcast with Libby, when my second daughter was on death's bed, basically.
Yep.
That I made a comment to God that if he takes her, I will still love him.
Yeah.
I didn't make that call when I was in the middle of the trial.
Mm-hmm.
And so the caveat is you're going to experience hardship. You're going to experience trials. So think about now how you're going to handle it so that when stress is produced and you're no longer in your right mind, justifiably, you've got a game plan for how you're going to fight the devil.
Yes, because it's not a matter of if you will have disruptive change. You will. And the question is, are you ready to handle it? What are you doing to prepare so that you can execute the mission correctly and then get rest, recovery, and heal from it afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, losing our dads it's terrible, but at least it's in the right order.
That's right.
You know, what do you tell somebody that loses a child?
That's right.
First of all, nothing. Like, I wouldn't tell them anything because their grief is real and they need to go through that. And so to give somebody like that advice is just a terrible idea. And I don't want to downplay just how harmful and painful that is.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's not, yeah. Cause and that's something that, you know, it's interesting you bring that piece up too, because when we lost Mom, she was struggling with dementia. We've actually been talking about it as a family. And it just seems harder right now with Dad. And I think the reason why is because Mom, we saw it coming for years ahead of time. So it's like you're kind of preparing yourself. With Dad, it happened much quicker, but Dad's also 84 years old. So imagine what it's like when someone loses that much closer to them and someone younger than them. And so again, I'm not saying that I understand it completely because I've never been in your shoes.
No, I definitely don't.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, that's right. We just don't. But what we do say is that this is what I know, and I totally believe, is that Dad is still with us. He's just different now, and he's more complete than I am. And I get this feeling more than I've ever before, and I had it really strongly yesterday, that he was basically there saying, hey, I'm watching. I am proud, and I love you. And this life is not the only, this is not the end. This is only the beginning. And he's there in that battle. It's a little bit different now. And now I've got him, I got Mom, I've got all those people that are looking out for me more than ever before.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he said that to your daughter too, right? He said,
yeah.
I'm proud of you and I love you.
Yep.
Well, Mike, you and Julie raised that girl.
That's true.
Right? You and Julie and Jesus raised that girl.
Yeah.
And your dad was telling you that too.
Yeah.
Like what greater compliment? Think about it. How good does it feel when somebody in the community is like, you got really good kids?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And yes, they are good kids and they do a lot to earn that on their own, but you had a major part in that. Mm-hmm. So your dad was telling you he's proud of you too.
Yeah.
When he told her that.
That's it.
So.
Yeah. So anything else you can think of? I was going to say one more thing here.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, it's important for us to kind of get an idea behind this and this idea of what we're dealing with here. And here recently, as you know, I have a reading problem, and I can't remember exactly where I got this from. But it was a reading about Paul, the Apostle Paul. And I'd never knew this before, but there are some thoughts that when he's talking about this thing I'm going to bring up right now, it could have been he did actually die or was close to death because he had been stoned. So I think about Paul and his belief system. He believed in this so much that he was willing, not maybe willing, no one wants to be stoned, but he knew that it was a possibility that he could be stoned. And there's parts of the Bible where it talks about all the terrible things he's been through, and yet he still did it. So, actually, it's right here. It's in 2 Corinthians 11, starting in 23, he says, I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, and goes on and on and on. And when I read that, I think to myself, man, am I willing to be as strong as Paul?
It certainly puts my trials in perspective.
It certainly does. And And I'm not trying to take anything from anybody. I am not. But what I am saying is that there's more to this than what we actually see. Now, fast forward in the next chapter of this. This is when the guy I was reading, I can't remember who it was talking about how Paul may have died. And he talks about, this is where he's talking about, I knew a man that went into the third heaven.
Right.
And I knew a man. What is that? What is he talking about? He's talking about this third heaven. And it says, I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up in the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows. This guy, is not what it says, but that's what I'm trying to help with here, is was caught into paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. What he's actually talking about is he is the guy that went to this third heaven.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, if I know a guy.
If I know a guy. And so he's the one that went to there, and he's saying that he heard, that Paul heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. He knew about something else that was out there, and he's basically saying, man, I saw it. Because he's actually, when he says, I know a man, he's actually talking about himself. So he was there, he saw something different. And that is the thing that gives me strength. That's the thing that gives me this ability to say, no, it's okay, I'm going to keep on fighting. And this then is probably what my dad was experiencing.
Yes. Biblical evidence.
Yes, he was experiencing this idea, this inexpressible, these things that no one is permitted to tell. And in that process, he was actually finding life. He was finding, maybe for the first time, because I said my dad was wounded terribly at a young age and never really recovered from it. He was actually finding life. And in that process, he had a conversation with my mom and said, and they made things okay, according to this woman that spoke to me. So all of this is connected, you guys. All of it.
And even in the darkest moment, God provides a peak.
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Because there's more to life than what we see and feel. There's more to it.
And to give us hope.
And to give us hope for something more that's out there.
Yep.
So if Jesus gave us life and he is life, then if we put our trust in him and we believe that he is the writer of those truths, then we find the way to the life. John 14:6 says, I am the truth, the way, and the life. Jesus is not saying he's a religion. He's telling you something more. Mm-hmm. He's saying that I am the way to find life. And I believe that my dad and your dad are seeing that more than we are right now.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's where I'm at right now.
I'm pretty pumped too, because like the idea that the people that we care about are waiting.
Yes.
And when you look at eternity, it's a moment.
Yes.
It seems like a really long time here, but in terms of eternity, it's going to be a moment.
Yep.
And we get to see him again.
We get to see him again.
So won't that be cool?
I can't wait, man.
Walking with Jesus.
Walking with Jesus. And Johnny Cash.
Well, he's definitely going to be there.
He better be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's there.
I mean, any number of heroes that I would care to meet that have since passed.
That's right.
Yeah. That's really amazing.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
I hope that helps people out there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one more time, and I'm going to tell all our listeners too. I'm proud of you.
You know what, buddy? I'm proud of you too.
I love you.
I love you too.
And I'm sorry your dad's gone, but
thank you. I'm sorry about yours.
Thanks, man. So,
but they made us who we are.
It's true.
They made us stronger. And I thank my parents for everything they've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, they stepped up.
Yeah, they did.
And now it's our turn.
Yep.
So I'm willing. I know you are too. And I hope all our listeners out there will join us.
Absolutely, buddy.
So, love you, man.
Love you too.
Till next time, guys. This is Jim and Mike signing off from Tribe Talk. Say goodbye, Mike.
See ya.
See ya.